Hi everyone, welcome to 10 on the 10th, which is for Christmas cards. This is hosted by Metal Scrap and Chick, who is Kim, and Paige and I, who is Stamp Girl, sort of played along with Kim, and I think a couple others as well. So this year she's made it into a formal collab. Yay! Thank you, Kim. And it's the point is to make 10 Christmas cards a month so that when we get to the holiday season, we are not behind in our cards to send out. Okay? That is the point. So I decided two things. I have this paper that just retired from Stampin' Up! And I love it. It's called Let It Snow. And I didn't get to use a whole lot of it, but I had some scrap pieces, and I still have a couple large scrap pieces, but I had some smaller ones and such, and so I wanted to use them. And then, so that you can't get anymore. That the last of that was January 2nd, but the stamp set that went with it, this photopolymer stamp set, which is item code 150458, carried over, so it's still available online, as is the coordinating snowman builder punch. And did I write the number down on that? I did not, but if you search on snowman builder punch, you'd be able to find it. I ended up not using the punch for my cards, but I did use quite a few stamps in here. I also used this stamp set. I just used this Sending Warm Christmas Wishes on a couple cards, and this is in the annual catalog and is item code 150285. And lastly, I used this Merry Christmas on I think only one card, and it's item code 149418. So I used a lot of Stampin' Up! Things. I used let's see, I also used this square layering squares framelits dies number 141708 on a couple of the cards, and I'll show that to you when I get there. And for most of them I used thick Whisper White card base, a cardstock for the bases. One of them I had a pre-made Real Red card base, so I used that. And then I used regular Whisper White, Pool Party, and Real Red cardstocks. Okay, and a couple other things on the first couple cards. I used these pearlized doilies. They're number 146936. This is a brand new pack, but I had 3 loose, and I used those up. And I did use, now this retired, this went with the Snowman collection. It's called the Let It Snow Embellishment Kit. Really cute. I used that on a couple cards. And as we go through these, you're going to see I didn't put some bling on yet, and I may still do that. So let me move this out of the way. Also, on the first 3 cards, I think it is. Let me check. Yeah, the first 3 cards, I sort of followed this My Favorite Things 66, number 66 card sketch, but theirs is a square card, and I did not make a square card. I made a regular A2, and I made them landscape. So let me show you what I did. This is the first card. Actually, I made 3 of these cards here. And so I put a piece of designer paper in the background. This was another piece. This was a scrap, and it actually just almost, I had just a little bit left, like one little strip, I think, after I cut these 3 pieces out of the sheet, the half sheet or whatever it was I had left. And then these were a scrap also, and I ended up with one more square, not quite square left. Here it is. So what I did is I put this down, then this border here, which is I think 1 3/4, and I had that one I had exactly enough to do 1 3/4 3 times. And then I took this piece and backed it on Real Red. But before I did that, I put the pearlized doilies down, then the squares with the designer paper on, and then here I just used the Merry Christmas out of the snowman season, and I used Real Red ink, and then also I used this little snow thing here, and I went all over the edges in Pool Party, but I stamped off on most of it one time and used that because I thought that looked most like the snow in this one background paper. And then on the inside on all of them, I just used another strip of this. I think that's what I used on all of them. Yeah. And this Hoping This Season Builds Heartwarming Memories on the inside. And so those are my first 3 cards. Okay, and then the next, let's see, 1, 2, 3 cards. I used a different piece of paper that had been cut into already, but also, well, let me just show you one of them. They're just slightly different because of the paper being different. But I had 3 previously cut, what is this called? Sparkle Glimmer paper that Stampin' Up! Sells in the annual catalog. I had already had these in my pocket, my folder. Some of them are a little smaller. One of them is a little smaller than the first 2, so they're all different sizes. So I wanted to use them up, and one of them, I think this one, already had the edge flat. So I thought, now this one I didn't use any sketch, I just went with my gut. I wanted to back it on black, and actually all three of these are vertical cards. They're A2 still, which is 5.5 by 4 1/4. So the black piece then is 5 by 5 1/4 by 4, and then this is 5 by 3 3/4. So I don't remember what size this is. It might have been a circle die because I had cut them previously. This is a scrap of Real Red I had left from cutting up some Real Red to get these. And then here I used that Rustic Retreat stamp, and I used Memento Tuxedo Black. And what I used is I believe it's called the Pretty Label Punch. Yes, it's number 143715, and I just took my Real Red Stampin' Right marker and went around the edges because I didn't want to add another layer, and that is bumped up on dimensionals. Everything else is just glued, but that's bumped up on dimensionals. So here are those 3. You can see this one, this was the last one I did. I ended up putting, it was a smaller circle. It hadn't been cut along the edge, but I did cut it. But I placed it so that you could see the other snowmen still, most of them. And I put the label over here for the same reason. So I just placed it in a different spot. And like this one's a little more over in the middle because I wanted most of that little snowman to show there. So, and then on the inside, all I did was stamp the Merry Christmas from the stamp set in Real Red. I didn't put any backing paper or anything. Yeah, that's what I did on all 3 of those. So 3 of those. And then the next 2, are these the ones? No. The next 2 were not from a sketch either. However, I kind of messed up. I wanted them to be the same cardway, but this one's vertical and this one's not. So what I did here is I used Real Red as the base, and I cut it at 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. So this is 5 1/4 by 4. It's just a thin border around it. And then here I used those square layering squares dies, and I used for the big one I used this one and this one, and for the little one I used this one and this one. Not that that really helps you, but I wanted you to see that was the first time I'd actually used those. I've had them here for a little while now. Bought them up earlier in 2019 sometime, and I had not used them yet, so I wanted to do that. And then this washi actually was out of this little kit that is no longer available, sadly, and it's a sparkle washi. So I just put a strip behind this guy and a strip behind this guy. This is the snowman right here, and I stamped him in Memento Black. Then I colored him just around the edges with light Pool Party Stampin' Blend, the alcohol marker. I used light pumpkin pie for his nose, and then I did use the shimmery crystal effects, which I was told carried over, just on the little coal for his belly there. And on this little square, I stamped Let It Snow in Real Red, but I used the snowflakes and just once stamped off and put that on right here and here in Pool Party. And then on the inside of this one, I had a piece of Real Red that was almost the right size, so I just trimmed it down a little bit, and I did stamp on Whisper White. Actually, this was a piece on the other side of it. I had made a boo-boo on something, so a while back, and I just flipped it over and used it because it was the right size already. And these are in full strength Pool Party with that same snowflake. On this one, I didn't have any more pre-cut Real Red, so I used a piece of Pool Party scrap I had and cut it down, and then just did the same thing. And I think it looks alright. I kind of prefer the red because it makes the other stuff pop, but I thought those were adorable. Really like them. Easy to color, that guy too. And then lastly, I had scraps of my scraps, right? So I pulled out the scraps, but I also was just glancing through, and I used on the one card I'm going to show you next, I used number 70. So it's horizontal card. They have a paper in the background, a strip of paper here, and then this could be ribbon, but I used paper and I used ribbon here. I used a Starburst punch for this, and I heat embossed a sentiment on that. And then I do have a little strip of designer paper, which you'll see in a minute, and I have two little embellishments here and here. So with that, this is the card I made, and that paper is actually the back of the snowman paper, going this way. So I had a scrap of that left. I think it was this width already, and I just had to trim it down a little bit on the edges. This ribbon is the what's it called? It's Whisper White. It's the flax ribbon from the it started in last year's Occasions catalog, but it's in the annual catalog. 5/8 inch. I love that ribbon. So that sort of had stripes in it, so I thought it went with the background. Then these were one piece that I just cut in half, and this is on the back of another piece of paper. Yeah, okay, yes, this piece here that I used in the first three cards, mittens are on the back, and I had another little strip of that, and it had red mittens on it. So I pulled out this little kit again, and I got the red mittens and the hat, and I glued them onto this piece, which I used the Rustic Retreat Sending Warm Christmas Wishes, and just heat embossed that with white embossing powder. That circle is bumped up on dimensionals, and of course then the mittens and the hat are on mini dimensionals, also glued on, and that's it. I may put a little bling or little snowflakes still on here. On the inside, all I did was put a strip of the coordinating paper, and no other sentiment. And then the last card, I really was going with scraps. I had this red card base in my Real Red paper pocket thing. I keep all my cardstock in these job ticket holders by Avery L. And see, I keep scraps in there too. So yeah, anyway, I had that in there, a full card base. This was a piece left over from some other cards I made earlier that I showed you. Here's another strip of that washi tape from that little kit. This was a scrap. It fit perfectly, glued it on. This was a scrap, fit perfectly, glued it on. This Merry Christmas was out of the Perfectly Plaid stamp set here. And I used the brand new, what is this called? Label Me Lovely punch, which is in the 2020 mini catalog. And it looks like that. And then what I did is I cut it out of Pool Party. And then I cut that piece in half. And then I cut it out of Whisper White, stamped them to Merry Christmas in Tuxedo Black. But I glued the half pieces onto the back, so I have a little edging of Pool Party coming around to set it off, and then that's up on dimensionals. And the inside, I have a piece of Whisper White, just a little strip of this paper with the stripes going in the same direction, and then I stamped that little snowman guy that I used in a couple cards ago. So that is my 10th card, and they were fun to make. I had trouble initially getting started making these cards because I think I'm like so over Christmas right now, but they came together pretty well. I've been working on them for a couple hours, I guess, but they came together pretty well once I got going on them. So I have 3 of these, and oops, trying to get them all in frame here. 3 of those, 3 of these. I'll just do it this way. 2 of these, and then these 2 with scraps. So I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, I had fun. And please go check out the other collab members: Metal Scrapping Chick, Stamp Girl. I know there's others, and they'll be listed, linked down below this video. I just can't remember everybody at the moment, sorry. But do go check them out, because a lot of them are just great card makers. So, and it is cards, it's Christmas cards. Go see what they made. And I have my first 10 cards for next year. I just have to stamp on the back and put envelopes with them, and there I go. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Sorry it's so long. Bye for now.